up, everyone? Continuing our study on horror punk and other subgenres. In our previous two, we talked about the Misfits, you know, the Danzig era, part one, and of course, the Graves era, which was part two. I think I mentioned something about we were going to go into another band, but I kind of got ahead of myself, so we're going to jump back in between both eras, and we got to cover the Samhain era. Pardon me. I'm coming from a little bit of a cold here. But anyway, the Samhain era was very important because, as we talked about, you know, when Glenn ended the Misfits, and it was done, you could see there was a transaction. He was changing. Basically, when Earth AD came out, you can see there was something different. There was a different vibe, more of a much darker feel. Matter of fact, I think I read an interview when Jerry Owen was talking about that point. He saw Glenn was getting much darker and evil, while the Misfits were originally just campy. It was just more of a campy, referring to the Plan 9 from Outer Space, you know, the old campy horrors of the 50s and 60s. Glenn was changing, and it was time for a new beginning. As a matter of fact, their new album, Samhain's first album, I think was, what's it called, Initium, which is Latin, I think, New Beginning or something. So he was telling you, even with the transition from Samhain with the first album they were doing, hey, it's a new beginning. So anyone that's really not too familiar with the Misfits, or then you jump in and go into Samhain and you're expecting the same thing, no, it's different. It's a completely different vibe and feel with Samhain. Now, before we get started, if you're into Samhain or in remotely want to try to get a good collection, you gotta have this. To me, this is more valuable than the vinyl. This is everything you want for Samhain in this. Now, this is a little hard to get your hands on. It's got the Misfits box set. You can find this a little more readily available, about $100-some bucks. You know, and definitely a worthy investment for Misfits. But the Samhain one is a little more harder. I gotta let you see. If you haven't got this box set, you gotta see what's in here. Get the fucking thing open. First of all, look at that fucking comic book. Hope you can see that. That comic book is just almost worth it by itself. Pretty much what it is, Glenn and Eerie Vaughn, or pretty much they just finished up a show that Samhain did, and they're backstage and they pick up this girl, a little slut, and they're fucking her, man. I mean, they're putting it to her. They're doing a threesome, and a metamorphosis takes place. I hope you can see this. Hope I've got the angle right. So it's a very cool story. Zombies, chainsaw at the very end. It's a very nice little piece of artwork. And then, of course, you have the booklet, little booklet right here. I think it was put together by, I think Eerie Vaughn, I think, did the stuff for this. I haven't even looked at this book probably about 3 or 4 years. I think I bought this box actually on Amazon or eBay about 5-6 years ago for about $120. Me and Ricky went on it together. I think today, you're lucky if you can find it for under $170, $200. But yeah, a lot of pictures of the band, the order of the albums and all that, lyrics, and of course the flyers. You gotta have fucking flyer art, man. I mean, you gotta have that shit. That's the most important part. I think one of the biggest parts of going to a show is I like to go and I like to look at the flyers on the wall of all the shows and the bands. That shit's gonna be valuable. Most of the stuff today, these old flyers, they sell for some money. And of course, they go into the history of when Samhain was beginning in it. So you gotta have this. Good artwork. Because anyway, getting on to Samhain, Misfits was done. Then we can actually see where Glenn was done with the Misfits even before about the time Earth AD, the final album, which was more aggressive and darker, more of a hardcore cross, more like a metal album. You know, he was done with the Misfits. He was already making plans. And Eerie Vaughn, of course, who wrote this book. It's more of his photography book, Misery Obscura. He talks about, because he's been with the Misfits for years. He was their photographer, took many pictures of them. And I think at that time, Erie was a drummer in a punk band. Glenn came to him and said, I'm done with the Misfits. I'm fed up. I want to do something else. And he asked him to be his bass player. I think originally he was going to be the drummer, but Glenn's like, no, man, I think you're more of a guy that should be in the front, more toward the center with me. We'll make you a bass player. So he taught him the bass lines and all that, and Harry Vaughn quickly became the bass player. And of course, for those who know Danzig, we're into the band Danzig, Harry Vaughn stayed with Glenn through those years in Danzig, but originally began in Samhain. And I think then they got Damien. I mean, I'm a little fuzzy on they got Damien as their guitar, but I think they originally had a guitar player. What was it, from Black Flag, I think. There was another guitar player who originally played. If you ever find the video footage of the first show Sam Hain did, they had another guitar player. He didn't look like a metal or gothic punk kind of dude. Glenn wanted someone who had a good vibe. The guy was a hell of a guitar player. I just can't remember what punk band he was in. Anyway, he played the first shows and did some of the recordings with them, I think. But anyway, the first show, he just looked like a regular guy up there playing, and Glenn's like, no, this ain't gonna work. It don't fit. And he didn't feel like he fit in with Sam Hain anyway. So he left, and then they got Damien in. And I really liked Damien. I felt he was a very, for what he had to do with the guitar playing style, he was great. I mean, you just look at those early shows that did. And I actually have DVDs of some of the Sam Hain shows. And again, totally different feel. Glenn was the front man, but he also did some guitar playing on it. And something else different when he did Sam Hain, he re-recorded some of the Misfit songs, but with a different groove, like Hard Business. It's like, so they're going dun 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 dun. The main verse and riff. Like this with the Misfits, it's dun 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 dun. So he just changed the verse a little bit. Of course, he left the same. And I'm trying to think. All Hell Breaks Loose. He recorded that much more. I actually like Sam Hain's version of All Hell Breaks Loose. I think it's on Unholy Passion. And so anyway, I found also with Sam Hain it was more sexual. You didn't really feel like get a sexual vibe with the Misfits, but with Sam Hain it definitely was more sexual. With the song Unholy Passion. He also had a great song I felt had a totally different vibe and feel to it was in Archangel. I mean that was a ballad right out of nowhere. So, but you definitely when you see the early later on as Sam Hain was transitioning with their other albums like Coming November Fire, you definitely felt that was more of a Danzig album, like Twisted Cain. A lot of people don't know that Twisted Cain, which he did in Danzig, that's actually a Sam Hain song. I don't think that was in Twisted Cain, or Twisted Cain wasn't in Coming November Fire. Oh yeah, by the way, in the Sam Hain box set, it's hard to find this. The pin, you don't find the pin very often. I got the pin, the little monster, the demon skull, which came from Chris Starr, the Crystal Warrior comic book. Glenn ripped that off. I mean, he admits it, but that's actually I think Chris Starr, the Crystal Warrior, was actually published by Marvel Comics, so it's really kind of a Marvel product and anything. But right there, that's in with the box set. But anyway. Also, live, you get a live CD with this. This is good listening to. If you get that box set, it's a live CD. I'm trying to think. Of course, Halloween 2 was reworked. That's another Misfits song. They reworked that on November Coming Fire. I think it's Final Descent. Final Descent, where you see. Lords of the Left Hand, excellent. Twisted Cain, yeah, it was on right there. So on Final Descent, Twisted Cain was actually a Sam Hain song. So with Sam Hain, you definitely had a different Glenn Danzig, you can see that the why horror punk claims its roots with this. Even Sam Hain, I never heard them ever refer to themselves as horror punk. And matter of fact, I knew a guy where I work at Sharp Hospitals a few years back. there was a man by the name of George Grant. He worked in the control room. And everyone kept telling me, man, you got to meet this guy. He's just like you. He's in a punk rock. He was in a punk rock band. And I'm like, really? And so I met the guy. He worked night shift. And we sat down and talked. And he was telling me about, he knew he actually would, his band, Contortion Session, opened and played shows with Samhain. And he'd say, I'd sit right here and I'd talk with Glenn Danzig just like I am with you right now. I'm like, oh, bullshit, dude. You're fucking, I was thinking back in my mind. Now, come on. Well, I found out, yeah, he was telling the fucking truth. I actually seen flyers where Contortion Session was opening for Samhain. I'm like, holy shit. So the fucking stories he told me just blew me the fuck away, man. We actually attempted a band together at that time, but it didn't work out. That's another story. So, but anyway, they were still an underground band, still playing smaller venues, getting a little bigger. They were playing bigger venues, but Samhain was just really still not getting to that next level that Glenn wanted to do. Glenn wanted to be bigger, take her to a much higher level. And he was getting closer than he did with the Misfits, but it's interesting, and there's also something else you can listen to. Misfits Exposed. I actually picked this up at FYE a few years ago. I think for like $6. You don't find something like this at fucking FYE. I remember when I was like, goddamn, FYE's got this? But anyway, this was recorded by, the artist who did the artwork for Fresher Magazine. He was a big skateboard guy. He was in, I'm trying to think of the punk band he was in. I actually got some of their albums and I can't remember his name. This is what happens when you get fucking old and you start losing your memory. Shit don't stick. But the guy who did the artist for like Metallica and the Misfits on the skateboards, he does the interview, asking the questions. And at this time when the interview was done, Glenn was done with the Misfits. He was becoming Samhain. Samhain was just taking off, and Glenn was going back over all the history of the Misfits and the incorrections and the errors people were coming up with. And so it's really interesting to hear about how his views and how different Samhain, he was talking about his goals with Samhain compared to what the Misfits was. So this is it, man. This ain't fucking press shit people write. This is coming straight from Glenn's mouth. Find this and get it. I think you can even find it on YouTube to listen to. But anyway, with Samhain, Glenn was putting up a whole new vibe, whole new members. It was still more of an underground vibe. And then along came, I actually want to talk about something else. I think it was a show in 1986 in Chicago where they were wanting to do a blood, the famous blood show. Glenn actually wanted to use real blood because everyone knows Chicago is the butcher capital of America. And he was going to use real pig's blood in his, on his show. So he actually had buckets of the blood ready to use, and he was being told by the venue, no, once they got word of, no real blood, you can't do that. So, of course, he had to make up a concoction to fake stuff. And you can see, I think, actually footage of that. You can find it. So, but I really like Glenn's authenticity. I mean, that's the thing today with bands. Use real blood. I think sometimes we treat blood and life too serious. I mean, part of punk rock, metal, the darker music is death. And I really appreciate the way Glenn said, I'm going to use real blood. And I don't think I have to like about black metal, or certain metal bands. They'll actually use real blood, put fucking animals' heads. As a matter of fact, the Misfits, a lot of people didn't know, about 79, 80, Glenn actually did a couple of the early shows with dead animals. They would find roadkill and they would hang it up on the stage. Glenn did that. And they would also come out caskets and stuff like that. He didn't do very many, just like a couple shows, but I dig that approach. I wish we had more bands that do fucking dead animals and real blood. But anyway, for more information on Samhain, get their box set, look up their music, check it out. You can see the progression. Even as Samhain was progressing to their final album, Coming November Fire, that was more of a Danzig album. To me, anyway, you can just hear compared to the early ones, going up to the last one, it was definitely more of a Danzig album. Then came Rick Rubin and the introduction of Danzig. Of course, new members were brought in. John Christ, because at that time, I remember actually when they got rid of Damien, they just said, Glenn couldn't even fire Damien. He didn't want him to do it. He said, I can't do it. Can't even do it. he actually left it up to someone else. Was it Erie, Vaughn, or London May? One of them told him, dude, you're fired. Because they wanted someone with a different vibe, different guitar skills for Danzig. And I think it was actually Rick Rubin, I think, that actually suggested that, getting rid of him. Get rid of him and get these guys. So anyway, new, more technical guitar players were brought in for Danzig. But anyway, that's another story. I think we're done with the Misfits Samhain era. Hope you liked and enjoyed it. This was just a brief summary of the works of Samhain and its contributions to horror punk rock in general. Keep tuning in because it's going to get better, because we're going to take this up through the late 90s, early 2000s, and up to today, where horror punk bands are. Today's current bands. I actually got stuff I want to share. So many things I want to bring out and share with you. And the band, especially from bands today, and the impact they're having, and how I feel they're going to inspire a new generation of music listeners and new bands. So keep tuning in, it's going to get better. This is Rick signing out. And by the way, someone was actually asked about Ricky. You haven't been here. He's working night shift. He sleeps most of the day. So I wanted to get this started, this series going. So I've been kind of solo on my own. But don't worry, Ricky will be back. Maybe the next one he'll be with us on. Got a lot of series. Like I said, we're covering hard punk rock, metal, the different levels of metal. So you keep coming in, keep listening, keep watching. It's Rick signing out.